Woo! We got a heater for you tonight. I got to tell you, it is Thursday we're a little late this evening, 7:45, 7:46. It's all good. It's all good. Coming at you, this is Why Libertarian. My name is Matt, for anyone who might be new to this broadcast. As usual, like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, retweet, get this out there. We're going over a fantastic topic tonight. Absolutely fantastic. Before I get rolling, make sure to throw this a sub. If you're watching on something other than YouTube, throw it a sub. The other thing that you could do is hit me up on my Linktree. It's just Linktree, linktr.ee/Why Libertarian. And if you go on there, you can actually look up my Hive social media profiles. We are building the Liberty community on the blockchain. Check it out. I actually rolled a 101 session earlier this week live to show you how to set up an account, get on the Hive blockchain. Let's get there so we don't have to be censored, worry about centralized control and authority over the stuff that we're saying, especially when we're talking about awesome stuff like we're talking about tonight. All right, that's it. I'll get off my soapbox. I got two grand slam home run hitters tonight. I got Mike Rufo and I got Diego Rivera bringing. We got like 3 times the Jersey energy tonight. It might be too much Jersey energy. I don't know.
Got it. So about it.
There's no such thing as too much Jersey energy. Let's go.
Yeah. Except to people outside of New Jersey, then they'd be like, "Yeah, that's too much Jersey energy. Like, we could crash.
Can't handle it, bro.
Crash a wedding with this energy. You know what I mean?
I can't handle it, bro.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. All right. So we are talking about Defend the Guard tonight, but I want to talk about one thing first before we get there. There is a dude that has a gigantic set on him, and he is out in Idaho, and he is a Republican from Nampa, and his name is Ben Adams, all right? And this week, he set at least Liberty World on fire online. Because, and this is a direct quote from what he let out when the general session was called to order for, I believe this is the assembly out there in Idaho. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're not already, wake up. Do we need to be reminded of the words of Patrick Henry? That liberty ought to be the direct end of our government. Liberty, sir, was the primary object. Vaccine passports, breaching our dams, indoctrinating our youth are all on the agenda now in 2021, after a year that attempted to squelch out the remaining embers of liberty in this country. The winds of tyranny have blown on and this is controversial, I heard remnant. This quote says remnants. I think whoever wrote this doesn't understand what the remnant is. But remnant and ignited a flame that will not be put out. What a freaking badass that guy is. That took some balls, and he delivered it with force. That was, what were you guys thinking? Diego, what were you thinking when you heard that?
Oh, I geeked all over the fucking place. You know what I mean? Like, I was doing deadlifts that night, and he called me. He's like, "You're the first person I've talked to since I got out," and I'm gonna show him this clip here too. And he's like, "Did you like the little tip of the hat?" I was like, I got a warning that there was going to be a tip of the hat in there. I didn't know that I was going to act up all over the place, and just I loved it.
That was awesome. What were you thinking, awesome, Rufo?
Man. I loved it. I love it. And anytime somebody brings it up, anytime it gets announced, it excites me. It gives me goosebumps. So like people understand, like, it doesn't take the entire room to start the movement. It just takes 2 or 3 people out of 100 to start the movement.
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you what. Look, it's not about, he probably knew most of the people in that room wouldn't even get it. They wouldn't even understand. It was about reaching the couple of people that actually knew what he was talking about. That was a big deal. So, all right. So tonight we're talking about Defend the Guard. Really quickly, I'll give you, Mike, because you're the one who introduced it to me, but I know Diego's been running with it a lot in the South. But Mike, you're the one who introduced it to me. So what is, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, what is Defend the Guard?
All right, I'm going to give him a whack, but I know Diego is like the old pro at this because he's actually working hand in hand with the organization. He's working hand in hand with Dan McKnight and all the legislators across the country. But in short term, it essentially, what it does is it restricts the federal government's ability to mobilize the National Guard outside of the borders of the United States without a declaration of war from Congress, as is actually constitutional in, what is it? It's Section 1, it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 of the Constitution. It says that the National Guard can only be mobilized for insurrection, for support of the citizenry, or if a declaration of war has been made, which we all know hasn't been done since World War. Did I lose you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's having.
They heard us. They heard what we were talking about, and they tried to shut us down, man.
Man, was that you? You lost it, or did I lose it?
I don't know. We got to find out here.
Subscribe to his Hive channel. Let's go.
Yes, yeah,
definitely go to the Hive channel so we don't have these problems anymore. That's for sure. Nonetheless, we're trying to keep it. We're trying to put a kink in the armor of the military-industrial complex by not allowing them to abuse the National Guard and use them as a reserve when they should only be getting deployed if we've had a declaration of war, which we haven't had in 70+ years.
Hey, I don't know if Shane Hazel's watching this, but I think your Facebook account got hacked. So I'm just going to say this on the live stream. I'm going to go ahead and text him real quick because I just got spam from his...
Shane's sending out spam? Is it trying to recruit you to the Republican or the Democrat Party? Is that what it's doing?
It's just like, hey, get rich, wealthy mindset. And I'm like, I think you got hacked, bro. So if you're watching this, Shane, you're about to...
You're on report. Matt McAndrews kicking in here. Big Daddy shadow banning coming in. Yeah,
bro,
definitely.
Wild, right? I go right at the military-industrial complex and bang, they just shut down your stream.
So how'd he do, Diego? Did he pass muster? Did he actually hit on most of the points there?
Yeah, dude. And like, I'd love it, dude. Because like, we got to, I mean, for that, to me, that's one of the biggest, like Rufo came out to this big event that we did at Smedley Butler's grave for the 19th anniversary of Afghanistan. We all met up at Westchester, PA, and we had Danny Segerson, who's just, I mean, what a poet, man. That guy can just write so wonderfully. We had Scott Horton. I emceed the event, and Dan McKnight just slammed it home. Then we had this dud of a congressional candidate that came there to talk about it, but then he was just so horrible that I literally cut off his time. I was like, what a dud. But, I mean, Rufo was there, and then
it was impressive.
Yeah. That guy was horrible. But, I mean, now we know, and, like, I'm hoping that we never invite. But, yeah, essentially what Defend the Guard is for me, it's one of the best 10th Amendment bills. And I think that gets to the source of everything that we're pushing for as liberty people is decentralization, right? And it's about the most, it's like, it's the same thing that we don't necessarily get about like the constitutionalists, the limited government people, is that they don't understand that they want to restrict government. They just want to keep the most violent aspects intact. And it's like, if you're about decentralization, you should be about decentralization of the military, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and
100%.
one, these are, again, let's say you are a guy who believes you can limit government and other fairy tales, right? It's like, yeah, okay, but still, why would you want your civilian like militia out there in wars when they should be here at least protecting your states? Like Texas just went through a freeze. Like apparently 2 inches can bring Texas to a collapse. I was like, well, if we want anarchy in our day, all we need to do is have it snow 2 inches and we're good. You know what I mean? Because like they couldn't get nothing done. That was it. That was
kind of shows you how delicate it is too, where it's like, everyone's kind of like operating on a very thin very thin line right now, right? Like just in general with anything, right? With anything going on. So you guys had a big day down in Texas pretty recently. What you got a ton of floor time. I think Scott Horton was down there with you to help present in front of the Texas legislature. What came out of that?
Oh man, that was huge. I got angry. I was supposed to give a different kind of speech, but it was just the fact that I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the defense chairman doesn't understand what an AUMF is, and that's fine if people watching don't know what it is. It's the authorization of use of military force. Essentially, it's a blank check with no geographical, time, or fiscal constraints, because we know Congress is going to fund it no matter what, right? Yep. But it's a blank check, right? Like we used the 2001 or 2002 AUMF to bomb Soleimani 20 years later, right? So essentially, it just gives the president all of the war powers that Congress is supposed to be having. And he didn't know what that was, and he didn't know that we haven't been voting on war since the 1940s, right? And so I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to them talk about, my brothers and sisters, because I was, I signed up, I did my thing. I'm not a blue-haired lady, you know what I mean? Like I'm a man, right? And I'm right. I'm just bottom right, but I'm not getting, like, someone talked about the mission, and so like I went there. And it was right after the 15-year anniversary of when I lost 2 dudes. In fact, I have this here with me, right? It's like I keep this close by. I don't even hang it up because I just want it wherever I'm at. It's
oh, man.
So it's been 15 years since it happened. It was March 19th, and these guys are talking about it. And I was supposed to talk primarily about that. And what I mentioned on that is like, I still remember, still to this day, some of the most savage, killers on this planet had to like essentially run like cockroaches when you turn on the lights, like dangerous killers, right? Like you wouldn't want to fight these men. These men were trained to be killers. Like, let's just put that out, like fact. And they scattered like roaches to just go find a place to go cry in dignity when that little girl was going, "Daddy Ricky, no, Daddy Ricky, no," right? Just watching the little, little clip that they put together. And it's like, that was 15 years ago. That little girl now is an adult. And to see these people talk about like, well, what are we going to do if they cut off funding? And what about the mission? And we need to be united. And I was like, it's been 20 years. What fucking mission, man? Like, and then, lucky enough, we had enough people that could give other points. I was supposed to do some polling and some of the more sadder parts, but I just did a pissed off, like, no, listen to me. I'm from the right wing. I'm a right winger, right? I'm bottom right, but doesn't matter to them. We're going to Horton rule this shit, right? I'm a right winger. I served. I did all the cool shit you wanted me to do, but it's been 20 years. Can we get the fuck out? I mean, aside from the fact that these wars are dumb, and as you guys reviewed, and I loved it, by the way, that book review of Enough Already, it's been enough, dude. It's been 20 years, 30 years in Iraq. Like, so my testimony didn't come out the way I wanted it to, but I think even Scott afterwards was like, you know what? I think the fact that you did get so passionate, like, actually allowed us to extend our time. Because I think at most we're supposed to get 20 minutes, and we ended up going for like 2.5 hours, right? And
I listened to that whole thing, and it went on. It felt like it was going on forever, but there was poignant points throughout with each testimony and they like you could tell that they were actively engaged in trying to understand the position of the bill. And I really do think that your emotion helped a lot. I think Scott's right, because at one point you looked him dead in the eye and said, "I want you to come to the graveyard the next time the caskets come wrapped, and I want you to tell their wives that it was you, that they died so you could have funding."
Right.
And you called them out and you said it right to them. And I'm telling you, that was a dagger through the heart for them. And to have that emotional testimony, even though it wasn't what you wanted, I think Scott's right. I think you going up there, even if you did have a quote unquote blackout moment or just allowed your emotions to control, it worked, right? Like it was poignant, because that's the point people need to understand. Like, if we push forward with this, they're going to threaten. They're going to threaten funding. They're going to threaten taking helicopters from us. They're going to threaten taking resources from us. But that funding isn't worth the lives of the men and women over there fighting these now pointless forever wars, when they shouldn't even be over there in the first place. And that's the thing. Like McKnight is very clear. He's like, this isn't necessarily an anti-war bill. This is a 10th Amendment bill. This is a protect the troops bill. This is a support our troops bill. This is a bill that's going to make sure that the governor has the ability to check the federal government the way the governor is supposed to have the ability to check the federal government.
And to speak to the seedy politics of it, right? Like, if they don't have to like go through and recruit and or draft people from the general population to continue to fight these things, and they're using folks that signed up for the National Guard, most of them because they wanted to help their friends and family and community at home, and they're using them to fight a war overseas, they're stealthily fighting war because they're not having to go out into the general population and like drag people kicking and screaming overseas to do it. They're basically just leaning on people that signed up for one thing, and then there's a bait and switch, and all of a sudden they're in freaking Afghanistan or Iraq or any one of the other dozen countries that we're currently engaged in combat in. So you got time, right? You got 2.5 hours. You were able to kind of say your piece and speak to the bill and everything like that. Is there more process that has to happen after that for them to adopt it? What's next in the process?
So, and just real quick, I just want to give a shout out to the people that did do it, so that people know this came from a varying places. We had Jeff Lyons, a Navy disabled combat vet. He works with YAL. Brian Sharp, who's a graduate of West Point, right? We had Louis Larada, who was the GOPer who actually put the Defend the Guard into the principles of the party. That last time I was on, we talked about where I clipped Alan West, right?
Yeah.
And so what's funny is that they he wrote an email to the governor recently telling him, look, even Alan West supports this bill.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Did it have a picture of Tim Pool right next to Alan West reading the question?
Yeah, it's awesome. But like we had like Matthew Ho, he's a Marine. He was the Obama surge whistleblower who said that this wasn't going to work, that this was a bad idea, coming from the left. You have Dan McKnight, who looks like he eats crayons for a living, right? Like, we had right wingers, left wingers, the libertarian angle all done, and we, I think we went over it. And I know Scott beats himself up because he said that the economic argument didn't land, but that's kind of what's going to happen when you have a Democrat chairman. Like, he's not going to. He didn't even let him get to the point before he heckled him and cut off his point. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. To your point, I think the emotional argument is like, it's good. It has to be there because that's probably the biggest element of it. Because to your point, like, the folks that are voting on this stuff are not staring this in the face. Like, they also don't have to come to the full realization of what they're, sending these kids to, basically, that are now going after their parents have fought in this war before them. And they just have no clue. They're running on the same propaganda that a lot of the other people in this country are running off of, that it's just like, oh, well, we have to continue to fight it. We have to continue to be there. And the answer is no. Like, you're going to continue chasing your tail until, what was it that what was it that was the phrase in Enough Already? It was this was our next Vietnam, right? Like this was our second Vietnam, you know, and that's exactly
Vietnam
what it is.
syndrome.
So what's the process to get to that point? Like, how much was it? Just a matter of having one member of the legislature that was willing to kind of like sponsor the bill and introduce it, or was there a ton more that went into it?
There's so much behind this, man. Like, there's a lot of backroom work. Like, not like
I need to know because Rufo's going to ask me to do all this stuff eventually. So
yeah. So I'll give you an example. At least it's the way
We got work to do, bro.
Yeah. It's like my motherland won't even put this bill forward. We got to do something out there. So essentially, what has to happen is we need at least five people to vote in affirmative for this bill. Mm-hmm. They have essentially until next Wednesday before it'll probably die in calendar, right? So calendar has max, they can hold a bill for 30 days, but the legislative session is going to end 30 days from next Wednesday, right? Yep. So in order to get this bill heard on the floor, it has to get out of committee. In order to get out of committee, it has to be voted on. It was heard, but it was not voted on. So it's still in committee sitting there. So what we need to do is put pressure and have them say, hey, look, Slayton needs to go to the chairman, say, hey, we have the votes, let's put it up for a vote. If they're sticky on this, then we need to get to the Capitol in Austin here as fast as possible and tell them, you're voting for this, right? Because we needed to get heard on the floor for an actual debate. And the thing that Rufo said I think is true is I do think that we're woefully ignorant. Rufo, you remember when the chairman was like, so like war is, I just assume it's like the bad guys here and the good guys here, and the good guys go bang, bang, bang over here, so the bad guys don't go bang, bang, bang over here, right? Like, it made my jaw drop.
It's funny how it's honest. It's not funny though. It's almost embarrassing the level of and I'm going to use the word ignorance that they had on the committee that of the entire process and what's actually involved and how the guard gets handled and when they're deployed. They don't know any of it, and it's supposed to be on the state and the governor to handle that. They should have some understanding of the process.
Yeah, this is the defense chairman, and they didn't know. To be fair, though, to all of them, they really did really hear us out. And I think honestly, the reason that they did is because I didn't think they had any idea what this was. They saw Defend the Guard and were like, oh yeah, we support the troops. And then they heard us and they were like, wait, what? Like, they didn't know the fact that we haven't declared war since forever. But when they found out, they were like, hold on a second. And I try not to give politicians too much credit, and I don't think I'm doing that. But at the same time, they really did hear us out because they were like, wait, well, what? Our foreign policy is a disaster?
Yeah.
Wild. But
I think the questions they were asking were genuine questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That, if you would have read any of Scott's books, you would have just been like, oh, I know this already. Right? But maybe I should drop some copies.
But that's just the thing. Like, ignorance is bliss, isn't it? Right, like when you're sitting in that seat and you're casting a vote, but you're effectively pulling the fucking trigger, right? Like you'd rather be ignorant to what you're actually doing, and I think the people that have the biggest vested interest in this stuff keeping going would rather those people stay ignorant than bring them, the religion of understanding that Scott has in pretty much in spades over everyone else that probably sits on that committee. He knows it inside and out. They probably have, not even a grade schooler's understanding of what's going on and the tactics and everything like that,
Well, not to kind of go off, but I mean that's exactly the intended purpose of the state, is to put people like them in position and utilize violence via proxy and keep them in an ignorant position so they can make these decisions and use the tool of violence that the state has. Be predacious on all of society and take through violence without actually having to feel the violence on their own. They don't experience it. They don't know it. They don't understand it. And that's by design. That's by design for the state to actually be able to be effective. They need to be blissfully ignorant.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why so many vets are the way that they are after the fact, right? Is that essentially they just see it for what it is, and you only got to see it once to know it's bullshit.
Yep.
That's the big thing, and that's why a lot of vets end up becoming so liberty afterwards, because they're skeptical because they've seen all the bullshit, right? They might not understand how the Capitol works or how this is, but on a gut level, they've got huge liberty instincts once they've seen this shit show. And that's why most of the people testifying that day were combat vets, if not vets. And Scott Horton was the only one who wasn't a veteran, but at the same time, yeah, he's Scott Horton. Please come testify.
So
if you're gonna have a non-veteran,
it should be Scott because
not great.
Yeah. So I get an F for preparing for class because I should have clipped out the talk at the Texas State House. I didn't do that, but I guess I was fanboying Ben Adams. I have him introducing Defend the Guard in Idaho, and it's like 2 minutes. So like, hold pat. I think the audio should be all right. If it's a little low, maybe I'll cut it. But this is him defending, and Ben is a Marine too, right?
Yep.
I think he served in the Marines, which is why he said, I know I might be a little forceful in my language, but he's like, that's the Marine in me. He's like, I can't go soft,
Mm-hmm.
So this is him introducing Defend the Guard in Idaho.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of the committee. I am Representative Ben Adams, District 13, Nampa. I want to thank the chairman for allowing me to bring forward this legislation for your consideration and your contemplation. This legislation is most commonly known as the Defend the Guard Act. It has been endorsed by nearing 500,000 veterans, coast to coast, from privates to generals and civilians alike. With an unabashed lean towards the federalism our founding fathers envisioned, this legislation reclaims the state legislature's responsibility to, as the former Secretary of State Daniel Webster stated, protect their own authority over their own militia and to interpose between their citizens and arbitrary power. He was referring to the federal government. Similar legislation has been brought forward in many other states in response to a federal government further distanced from its people and the expansion of executive power, especially in regards to waging war, away from Congress. President Lincoln famously offered that the provision of the Constitution giving war-making powers to Congress was dictated by the following reasons. Kings had always been involving and impoverishing their peoples in wars, pretending generally, if not always, that the good of the people was the object, and this was understood to be the most oppressive of all kingly oppressions.
This is like cut right out of Anatomy of the State, isn't it? It's like cut right out of, they got to make you think that you're at risk, right? In order to allow this to keep going on. And that's something that we have to fight in order to kind of bring the clarity of understanding exactly what's going on here, to them. So now Texas is first to actually have commentary heard on the bill. Is that right? Because Ben right there is just introing it, but were there other states that went first?
No. Ben's was actually one of the first, and there's a piece that I sent you right before it too, and I'll just answer you real quick. So we have it up in 31 states, whether they decide to hear it or not. Like Kentucky never got heard; it was introduced into the state Senate.
Yep.
In Ben's, it was heard in committee, and we've had it heard in Michigan, we had it heard in South Dakota, and I linked you to that piece, and in it is all the juice that happens here. Like, for example, they send the adjutant general from South Dakota to come and essentially testify against this bill, right? And we had Scott Spalding, who's with Vets for Peace. He's a Purple Heart recipient. We had Dan McKnight there. We had Mike Meharry of the 10th Amendment Center. And the general just came there and he goes, I cannot believe these men are ashamed of their service. And it's like, shut up. You're the bureaucrat in this whole thing wearing a uniform. Like, you better know your place real quick. One of them has a Purple Heart. you're a general. You're essentially a lobbyist for the National Guard at this point. And then in another state, oh God, like so with Ben, this is the juice here, right? You really see how these people act and why the government's so horrible. So it was brought up to a voice vote, right? Because people felt that it should be heard on the floor. So in committee, the speaker brought it up to a voice vote. It passed, but he said, motion fails. And people were like, what? Right? So, hold on. Let me just, Ben Adams just texted me. I'm going to share him the link to this live stream.
His ears are ringing.
Yeah.
It's been voted on in West Virginia several times, right?
So West Virginia is the one. OG Pat McGeehan. Shout out to him. He's the original gangster of this bill. He's been fighting for this for 7 years. Just recently, two years ago, it passed committee. Great. Then the last year, on the 6th year, it got a 50-50 vote, and then COVID happened. And then so they just didn't bring it back up. Then this year, the chairman tells him he's gonna kill this thing in committee, so he puts a parliamentary procedure to get it out of committee, and it got voted down 28-78. So it's a constant fight. It's like we don't often have victories, which is why like Texas felt like a little bit of like, holy shit, because of the things that they did with like Ben Adams and God, I would love for him to tell the story because he went through it, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, what happened was it passed the voice vote. Chairman goes, motion fails. People go, wait, look, this is fine. Let's just bring it up to a recorded vote. We'll get it out of committee. He goes, no, because it failed the voice vote. And then so what I did is I sent the audio to my buddy who's back in Jersey, and he works in production and all that stuff. And I was like, can you do me a favor? Can you increase this audio? Like, you don't have to play with it. No tricks, no nothing. Just increase the audio. I don't know how to do that stuff. So he does it. And then I send it back to Ben and Dan over there. And they start playing this over the radio. And you can hear that it passed. So then Dan goes on the radio show, and there's radio hosts clobbering the chairman up to the point where now they're literally having a vote to censure the chairman.
Good.
In his own county.
Run him out of town on a fucking rail.
That's fantastic. Get the talk feathers out. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen nearly enough, or that kind of stuff happens all the time, and the people that end up thinking, oh well, it just failed and we have to go back to square one and restart the process all over again. They wouldn't even have taken that step. I mean, like, we run into that with Second Amendment advocacy in New Jersey all the time. Yep. Stuff comes up and fails, and then, people are afraid to take, radical, air quotes, radical action in order to call attention to the bullshit bureaucracy that's stopping
it. Well, that's why it's
not the will of the people.
That's why it's so important. That's why it's so important not to just lay down and accept it. Like, so many people say, oh, well, we failed in this step, so now we got to follow the proper process. No. When you have a scenario like that, following the proper process is obviously not going to work. You're in their courts with their lawyers, with their people and their laws. You're never going to win. So what you need to do is you need to do something outside the box the way Diego did. You need to make sure that you show the public that the emperor has no clothes. You need to embarrass them for the embarrassment that they deserve for being crooked. That's what needs to happen. And that's how people need to approach it. That's why we can't sit back anymore and have these timid little, like I've said, these timid concessions. You can't have them. It's over. It's time to stand up and tell them, no, we're not going to deal with it anymore. This ain't the right place, man. This ain't Europe. It ain't going down like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, technically, fight fire with fire. If we ever did get a governor that was sympathetic to it, they could take care of this with executive order themselves, right? Like, this is something where they could essentially withhold the National Guard from D.C.
Yes. So, for example,
they'd have to suffer the repercussions from it, though.
Yes.
I'm sure funding would get pulled.
Yeah, there's always ways for them to do it just because they have all of this fiat, So, there's always workarounds. There's been a Supreme Court decision on whether the Guard can get trained out of state, and the Supreme Court ruled that they can. But as far as combat, the Supreme Court has never ruled on this because it's already in the Constitution. right? So even from a constitutionalist perspective, the Supreme Court won't even hear it because it's already a matter that's been it's already been decided. That's why it never gets heard, right? That's why the Supreme Court argued about training, not even the whole thing. So if they did follow the Constitution, unfortunately, we've all read No Treason, so we understand how that works. But even if they did follow the Constitution, they wouldn't be able to do this. So this is just, it's constitutional. It's fiscally conservative. You can tell conservatives, how is it conservative to send, arguably your bravest, right? Your most empathetic people who love this country, to send them off to wars where they die and then their kids never have a father. And you know how conservatives feel about a fatherless home. Right?
Yep.
You know how they feel about the budgets. What they do is different, but at least conservatives, not leadership, but conservatives care about the Constitution. They care about fiscal responsibility. They care about fatherless homes. Well, that's what you're putting forward. And for the Democrats, they kind of sort of get it, right? Just go back to George Bush, like 2001 era or 2003 era. You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Right? So, but yeah.
To that point, I mean, the Democrats did used to get it, right? They did get it. Even John Corzine in 2007. I was doing a little bit of homework, right? Because I'm trying I'm trying to keep speed with everybody else. But even John Corzine in 2007 was speaking out against the deployment of the New Jersey National Guard to Afghanistan because it was unconstitutional and that there wasn't a declaration of war. At that time, prior to the current situation that we have in D.C., the Democrats had the spine to stand up to George Bush before the election and Obama winning, saying, "Hey, no, you can't. You're not supposed to be able to do this." And he made a big stink about it. It was actually there was a news article about it.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, he hit the wrong button. I bet. That's also another point, though, Diego. It's like, why is it that, I mean, this happens all the time, but, each side in this kind of like, back and forth in this ping pong match, they have no problem being anti-war when the other side is in power. Right. So like, the other dot that like I try to connect for people, but maybe it's just too many degrees of separation. But today you had the executive orders come out from Biden about the Second Amendment, right? What's one of the things he's citing? He's citing a Syrian guy in Boulder, Colorado, who shot up a grocery store. That was blowback from missiles that got launched in the Middle East against Syria. Like, almost definitely. And he's using that to infringe upon pro-Second Amendment people's rights here in the United States. Like, they're linked. There's a couple of different dots there, but they're definitely linked. And so, taking that home, especially if you're talking to conservatives, it's difficult, but the conversation's there to be had. Like, it's definitely there to be had. You have to kind of fight through all this, like, to steal your language there, Rufo, you got to fight through the circus, right? Like, you got to make them understand, Major League moving their All-Star game away from Georgia is the circus, okay? Biden passing executive orders on the Second Amendment and continuing forever wars, that's what we need to be focusing on. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Absolutely. It's bread and circus, right? They entertain us and they put on all these dramatics and all this drama. I mean, let's be honest. All right, just to bring up the point, it is drama and circus, right? You took a primarily you're taking business from an area that is 51% African American, and you're taking all the business that is primarily African American business owners. You're destroying and taking away something they've all been depending on for economic reasons, and you're going to move it to a 78% white neighborhood, where most of the business owners are white men, right? And and you have voter ID laws where you have to show ID to vote. So it's all show, it's all pomp, it's all pomp and circumstance, or whatever. It's all bread and circus, man. It's all bread and circus. While they turn around and send our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, our fathers over to Afghanistan to do their bidding and make their buddies rich.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, and I got to tip my hat over to the Redacted Caucus, because I love the Mises Caucus people. I'm a big fan of the Redacted Caucus, and Jenny, she's watching right now. So tip of the hat to the queen of the Redacted. Yeah, that lady's gangster, man. So that might be a solution too.
Yeah. Well, so the next book that we're reading is actually Nullification in the book club. So finding a way, like you can work the channels, right? But also finding a way that's like, anti-channel almost, right? Like, finding a way to kind of like, what is it? Like find plan B and plan C and plan D, right?
Right.
But so what's the next step? Where is kind of like the next frontier as far as the Defend the Guard Act, and where is the next push, and can folks get involved? Like, I mean, can they support
Yes.
the effort?
And they should. And you really should. And like that's why I love what Rufo and everybody there in New Jersey's like doing. Is like, you know what I mean? Like they're just going to go about it however they have to go about it. I was lucky enough to find representatives, at least in Texas, and we have 31 other states where it's going to be filed. Might not be heard in all of them, but 31 states, you're thinking, dude, I mean, so here's the thing is a lot of ANCAPs are like, why do you focus on politics? And it's like, you know who else did? Murray Rothbard, Ron Paul, and they inspired movements. And we understand that it's mostly about the microphone, right? It's like we just want people with some authority to say, the emperor has no clothes. The emperor has no clothes, or just give a fire ass speech like Ben did the other day. Ben, if you're watching, that was gangster, but you already know that. So, I mean, this is why we do what we do, right? So it's just introducing this, fighting like hell for it. And then the thing is like, aside from the microphone, it's like we can use their bullshit to hold them up to their bullshit. Like we don't have to believe in it, right? But we can just use their tricks on them, like corner Alan West into saying he supports the Defend the Guard and put out a press release that says Alan West supports Defend the Guard, right? It's just doing shit like this. Like it's increasing the audio on Ben's voice vote so everybody sees that it's bullshit and that chairman is a Maoist son of a bitch, right? And exposing things like that. So you can play their game and beat them over the head with it. You're not going to win, but at least you can start to clap back, and they hate that. Like, why did they send 2-star generals to courtrooms? Yes, it's about reaching the remnant, Matt, right? Like, you do this, like, they send a 2-star general to your courtroom because it threatens them. And that's why I love this. It's like, you can use this to hit them back with it, right?
So, and that's the idea, right? It's guerrilla tactics. It's those guerrilla tactics that need to be used, because when you play their game, you're going to lose. If the Afghanis and the Taliban and all of them had played our game and approached the war the same way that the U.S. approached the war, they'd have been obliterated and the war would have been over in 2 days, right? But no, it's guerrilla warfare. They're in the mountains. They're doing unconventional things to ensure that they prolong, to keep themselves and give themselves a shot. If we go into their courts with their judges and their rules and play their game, we're going to get obliterated, and the state's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow until we take these guerrilla tactics with the fire speeches from guys like Ben Adams who get in there, with the radio things, with cornering Alan West. Those are guerrilla tactics that all of a sudden they don't know how to defend. They don't understand how to defend, right? But the average Joe understands what happened when it happens. And when the average Joe is like, oh, I get it now, that's when you've reached the remnant. That's when you've woke everybody up to say, oh, these guys are scum. We need to start putting real pressure on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see that. And I challenge anyone just to go on the Idaho Freedom Foundation, go look at the comments and look how many shares it's gotten. It went bananas. We're talking about Idaho, man. We're not talking about like a populated state like New York or California. In Idaho, they were freaking out, dude. They were like, this man, I don't know what he said, but he said some things, man. And like they took to it. They were just like, what the remnant? And they don't know he was talking to them, right? He was just using that microphone to talk to them. I mean,
that's it.
I'm sure he had positives and negatives in the, in a house full of, sociopaths. I'm sure some of them might have been good, but at the same time, I can't tell you how many people go, holy shit, that was fire. Shane Hazel put it out there the other day. He's like, God damn, man. And if you get Shane Hazel's attention, the dude's got a show called Radical. Do I need to say anything else? Well, you Shane.
That's the point, right? Like I mean, like in the general election that we just had, we had a record turnout, and still 40% of people, 50% of people who were eligible voters still didn't turn up to vote, right? Yep. Like those people, someone will speak to them to motivate them, right? Yep. And it's things like this where you're finding some of those people, and a lot of them are waking up because they might not know exactly what the problem is, but they know there's a problem. And when someone speaks up like that and they do it like emphatically and they don't take any shit either, so that when people turn around and say, oh, well, whatever, these crazy like liberty Republicans or these crazy libertarians, they don't know what they're talking about. The people that are sitting on the sidelines that aren't part of, that echo chamber, they're like, wow, these people are talking about some stuff that like actually kind of resonates with me. Like anyone who reads Anatomy of the State and they have that like visceral reaction to it, that's the people we're looking to reach, because most of us would not have like necessarily said those things that Rothbard said, but we felt them before he put words to them. And that's exactly what's going to happen when, someone like Ben or someone like Shane or someone like you and Scott Horton and Rufo stand up there and just light the pulpit on fire. And people are like, holy crap, like I've been feeling this all along. And this guy just put it into words in front of me right now. And it's all become clear. And to something you said before, Diego, like once the blinders are off, like once you see the Emperor has no clothes, you can't get back in the Matrix. Like it just doesn't happen. Like you just now see it everywhere. It's one of those things where it's like, what was it? When you're shopping for a car and like you want a specific type of car, all of a sudden you see it everywhere now. It's the same exact principle. It's like when you see the bullshit for what it is, then you just see it smeared all over everything. You're like, wow, I thought that was the most amazing thing. That's bullshit. I thought this was amazing thing. That's bullshit. It's like, and it just becomes ubiquitous when you look at the things that the state has its hands all over. All right, cool. So where can people go to find more information about the Defend the Guard Act?
Yeah. Quick, Texas. If you're in Texas, make sure to show up to Austin. Look up the Defense and Veteran Affairs Committee. See who's on there, right? If you want, reach out to me. I'll tell you who's a yes, who's a no. But if you talk to the chairman, tell him, bring this to a vote. In other states, go look up defendtheguard.us or bringourtroopshome.us, right? Go to either one of those links, right? Find out. You can click on the map, see if they have it in your state, right? And from there, you can, perfect. So you can see, like, for example, click on Texas, right? If you click on Texas, bam, you see who's putting forward the bill, right? If you click on the states, they have somebody, talk to them, see what you can do, make a phone call to one of the offices, right? Nothing.
Rufo, come on, man. You know what? We have the unique problem of literally having 0 Liberty candidates currently in office in the State House right now.
Not a single one of them believes in liberty. Not a single one that's in that building. Dude, in Trenton.
We're going to fix that, though.
I've been going to bat so hard to just find one person that I could just get into the New Jersey House. Like, that's home. That's the motherland. You know what I mean? Like, how can we, as New Jerseyans who are the toughest sons of bitches, how do we not have, like, a liberty gangster in that state house? Like, we got to make that happen. We got
a couple running right now. We got Nick Magner down in Legislative District 4 down there, Assembly District 4 in South Jersey, running near Burlington in that area. I interviewed him, just last night. He's got it, man. Like he knows it. He knows his stuff, and he's lived some different lives too. Like he came from, he was a former Bernie bro, and he saw the light. Like so, that's someone that you like. It's always like the pastor who's like standing up in front of the congregation. And it's like, who would you rather lead you? Like someone who hasn't sinned or the sinner that's seen the, folly in their ways, right? Like Nick gets it. Like he's and he's in it too, which is awesome. And he's not afraid to say it either, which is fantastic. So
oh yeah,
he's definitely a sinner.
Yeah, remind me that I got to go donate to
him. In fact, Nick was in the audience. I don't know if he's still there, but he's hanging around. And by the way, Nick, if we rank the beards, we already had a vote. Rufo wins like going away. Like it's not even close. Me and Diego are fighting for second.
yeah. I gotta keep mine. I gotta shake babies and kiss hands. So like every now and then I have to, I just trim mine too, man. Like I went to a dinner for the American Conservative. Also shout out to Hunter because he wrote like this is how we win, right? Is like Hunter Hunter Durensis put a review of Scott Horton's book in the American Conservative, right? And then that
Right.
allows me to bring Scott Horton to the dinner that they had here, right? And now Scott Horton's talking to different people about what he does. So shout out to Hunter and Scott Horton for being homies and gangsters.
Yeah. Yeah, and shameless plug. I got Scott coming on next week, so we're gonna be talking. I mean, he's gonna be talking. You really don't talk with Scott. Like you just ask him one question, and then like 45 minutes later, you're like, all right, thank you, Scott, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and take notes the whole time.
Yeah.
Wow. He's a great guy.
Yeah,
Listen,
he's amazing, dude. It's
Go ahead,
for
Mike.
it.
No, sorry. So I want to throw it out there that anybody that's watching who gets their eye on this, if you're in New Jersey and you're a veteran and this is something that speaks to you and you want to help get this bill in somebody's hand who's willing to bring it to committee, who's to try and push it to get it to the floor, I need you to reach out to me or Matt. I need you to reach out to Diego. Let us know that you're in Jersey. I'm looking to get together a group of people who are willing to hit the ground and go talk to all of their reps. We can go together on a regular basis. I'll go once a week to the State House to start talking to people, but I need your support. I'm not a veteran, but this hits home. I've got plenty of friends and family who were, okay, and who are. And I want to make sure that we do the right thing, not only by them, but by everybody else by everybody who does sign up in the future and everybody who we've lost. We've got to do the right thing here. So if this is spoken to you and you want to make sure that we get this through, please reach out to one of the three of us. We'll make sure we all sit down together. We'll come up with an actionable plan. I have things already filled out for signatures and petitions and I have a lot of the paperwork already ready. I just need people to help us out, and we're going to make this happen in New Jersey. And I'll kill myself to make sure that we get it done first.
That's beautiful,
definitely.
Man. That's beautiful.
Definitely. All right. I'm going to be respectful of your guys' time. Anything else that's we could talk, Biden executive orders if you want, but
it's another episode.
I know we could fill an entire episode. The one thing, and like, correct me if you think I'm wrong here. The one thing that I'm okay with is it just seemed like a lot of, again, pomp and circumstance, where there wasn't a lot of, things necessarily being banned and restricted immediately by executive order. The problem in the future is the direction it lays out is just, it's more of the same, and it feels like it's just going to continue eroding that natural right just piece by piece, and they'll use any reason they want. Which, by the way, and Mike saw this because it's in the group chat, there was a shooting in South Carolina today, okay? Ex-NFL star shot and killed 5 and injured a 6th, and then shot and killed himself.
2 children.
And it's two kids involved, right? And it was obviously, the dude had mental problems, okay?
Right.
And where was it? I did not hear anything about it. And this isn't like a white-black thing or anything like this. This is my theory. It's because it's someone who obviously had mental problems, okay? And they don't want to fix the mental health issue in the United States because that would be difficult, one, and also it would actually fix the problem so that they wouldn't have the political leverage to continue to be like Big Daddy state, right? And it's so much easier just to demonize the guns because they've already just propagandized everyone to think that they're, killing machines that if you just leave them alone, they'll slaughter 100 people without, someone who has a mental break behind them. That's unbelievable to me. What's the state of the Second Amendment down there in Texas? Like, they had a bill come to the floor, didn't they? That was to pull ARs?
Constitutional carry. And I think they're working it out of the House and it's going into the Senate now. So Texas could pass constitutional carry, but it's already 20 other states have already put it forward. It's about time Texas did some like real freedom instead of like the Yosemite Sam type freedom. But there's a lot of things here, right? So the first thing, as you're talking, I'm literally like listening. Okay, this is a time preference issue with the difference between politicians who can, for the sake of re-election, kick the can down the road, knowing that it's going to implode, right? But they don't have to suffer it because they'll be out of office by then, right? Yeah. So they can do that. they can, why don't they ever blame the economy, right? The fact that there's, so much economic hostility drives people to madness, right? But they don't talk about the fact that they locked them in their houses for a year. They talk about the tool. And what's funny is like there's two people at play here that push this forward. It's the people who understand that they need to take advantage of this tragedy to put it forward, and then there's the useful idiots that they manipulate. But none of this ever gets talked about. It's like, no, we just have to do away with the guns. It's like, no, you don't get it. Like, you just understand this real good and clear. If you don't agree with me on this, understand that you are sentencing me to my death, because I'm not going to give them up. And when you come for them, I'm going to fight back. And now either I end up in a cage, which you were going to do anyway, which is why you said men with guns, or I end up dead. So you're essentially sentencing me to my death because you hate guns and violence, right? So I don't want to hear it from them, but at the same time, we talked about this last time where I was just like, decentralization for everything. Military, guns, print your guns, mill your guns, you know what I mean? Buy crypto, buy gold. Don't buy into this bullshit. Like, stop playing their game. Just start using things that, just say fuck you, right?
Yeah. Are you a fan of the new ATF chief there, Mike Rufo, or what?
Excuse me?
Are you a fan of the new head of the ATF or what?
No. He lied. Well, he's actually gone on the internet and lied about what the Branch Davidians did. He said they shot down 2 ATF helicopters, and that didn't happen. That never happened. He's a liar who takes pride in the fact that he murdered 28 children. That's what he takes pride in the fact that he burnt and barbecued 28 children with no hesitation. Didn't care. They all stood around and took pictures over their smoldering bodies. That's how much they cared. And this guy is going to be the head of the ATF. This is the guy that you want in charge of things. That you want to make sure he's the only one that has guns. The same guy who burnt down a building full of people. You want to make sure he's the only one with guns. That's a really good idea.
The war criminal. Yeah, the war criminal, right?
Yeah. But I'm good, man.
That's the perfect hire for Clown World, isn't it? In Clown World, just everything's opposite. That's what we do,
I mean, you can look at this positively, though, right? Because, like, you can say, like, look, it's becoming more obvious, right? Even Trump had this effect where essentially he just pointed a mirror back at all these clowns, and people just started going honk. And then you're like, oh, okay, you see it, right? You see it too, right? I'm not crazy, right? Like, we're having this discussion from different states because we see it. So I think this does wake people up. You're like, wait, I don't feel that strongly about guns, but I do know I feel pretty strongly about a dude who mass murdered a bunch of people, right? He's a war criminal. So I'm not happy about it, right? But I can use this narrative, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will say this is where the guerrilla tactics come into play, because he was nominated, which means he still has to be approved by the Senate. And if the pictures, the documentaries, and the people like us continue to scream from the rooftops and embarrass the hell out of this man for the pride that he takes in the actions he took back in the early 90s when they did what they did to those people, there's no shot. I can't envision him getting approved. You already have an even split in the Senate, and there's been Democrats that have shown that they will break rank from the Democrat Party on certain issues, in particularly gun control. Right? I think that's exactly what's the woman's name? Sinema in Arizona. Sinema. Yeah. Right. She broke rank with the Democrats over minimum wage. And you see that they're willing to. She's at least her and maybe one or two other are willing to actually look at the issue at hand and take a vote accordingly, and vote according to the way they think that their constituents are going to want to vote. So if we embarrass the ever living daylights out of the administration for making this nomination, I see him not getting approved, and I think that would be a win for people like us. That would be a win for the liberty movement if we could embarrass that man to the point where he doesn't get the nomination, he doesn't get the votes to hold the position.
Yeah, 100%. Hard to argue with that. At the same time, though, a lot of this is like they open doors and we have to close them, right? And it's like we should be the ones opening the doors. We should be the ones opening up new discussions, and then make them have to like try to shut that down, and just be like, bam, what? Gun control? No, I want fully automatic weapons. You know what I mean? And push in the other direction.
Then we'll negotiate back. Like we'll negotiate back a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that, you know what? That comes to my point. We got to put our feet in the ground where we want to be and not give ground. Because the left is great at doing that. The left is great at sticking their heels in the ground, and they don't give. And they keep going at it. And every time they lose, they don't come closer to the right's position. They've never come closer to the right's position. They always plant their feet in the ground, and they say, this is where we're going to end up. And you may tell me no for the next 10 years, but in 10 years, you're going to end up closer to my mark than I am to your mark. So we need Republicans to stand up. You need people on the right to stand up and say, no, this is what we're doing. And you're not getting an inch from us. It's the timid concessions that have put us in the position of the servitude that we're in. And until people stand up and start having a spine and having a set and saying the things that need to be said, we're going to continue to lose. And that's how we start winning, with the words we use and the language that we use and the intentions that we have need to be clear and bold. They can't be hidden.
And Abrams in every driveway and a Black Hawk helicopter on every rooftop. That's the way it's going to go. Or fuck off.
Yeah, man.
Mike and I went to a diversity shoot this last week, and I got to tell you that something that also doesn't work with the anti-Second Amendment or the anti-gun narrative is this idea of like the bad white guy with a gun. Dude, the Second Amendment community is extremely diverse, okay? And this dude, Tony Simon in New Jersey, just he proves it through this organization. I mean, there was, guys, gals, gay, straight, all different, cultural heritage and background and religion and everything like that. He even made fun of vegans there for a moment, and I didn't really pick my head up and say anything about it, but, I was the one vegan. I was the token vegan in the room. If Tony's watching, he's like, I knew it must have been him. I never picked my head up from the book when I was reading the magazine.
That makes a lot of sense, dude. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but no, the Second Amendment community is also extremely diverse. And so, to both your points, like the other thing that we can do is just destroy the narrative with people that bust the stereotypes, right? And there's tons of them. It's just we have to open up to them and be like, look, we really need you to be vocal about your support for these things, because these folks, they're playing the propaganda game to say like, black women don't like the Second Amendment, and Maj Touré is like, the fuck they don't. Then they're one of his biggest attendees at his events when he goes in the city. So I think that's the other thing, is we can kind of destroy their narratives a little bit and shock people back to reality. So look, we got to get you to Jersey, Diego. We gotta take you out shooting. And then we also got to join you down in Texas to have some fun too. So
yeah.
That we need to do. Yeah,
it's a lot less locked down than you guys are right now.
Yeah, a little bit.
So let me ask you this. All right, so everyone got on the governor. He removed like a lot of the restrictions and stuff like that. Did everyone just like throw off their masks and decide that they were going to have a party? Or, I mean, there's still some people wearing masks though, right?
Yeah, so I'm here in Austin, so you're going to see the circus on full display at places like this. And even in Austin, like, there's still bars in downtown that don't, that are like, oh, okay. There's some that are going to be like, I had one guy be like, this is not a rodeo, where's your mask? And I was like, well, fuck you. And I went to another place, right? Yeah. But even the gym, they started pushing back. And then all of a sudden, it's just when people said no more. Like, for example, it was taken off. Then Austin said, fuck you, we're going to do what we want because we're commie scum, right? And so is the governor. He's a commie scum too. He locked Texas down for a fucking year. Fuck that guy, right? Yeah. But so the first day, about 3/4 of the people had them off. By the second day, everybody's working out without a mask. The third day, they were like, listen, can you just wear it past the sign-in place at Gold's? And we're like, no. And that was the most beautiful thing. It was nullification. And now they're just like, have a good workout. That's it. They just shut up, because people were like, I'm not doing this anymore. And that's what it takes. It's like the people to say, fuck you.
So is it really tough to drive through downtown Austin with all the dead bodies in the streets? I would think that there's just like, mass carnage and death and all kinds of stuff going on there right now.
No, it's pretty gangster. Aside from Tent City, that's just weird because the skyline's just like peppered with homeless people all over the river and all of downtown. And there's a million reasons why that's happening. But I mean, Austin's okay. It's fun. It's the best city in Texas. Houston and Dallas suck hot ass.
Yeah.
Note to self: Houston and Dallas suck hot ass.
I remember when we're booking our travel plans, Mike. Remember that.
Yeah, no Houston or Dallas. Good.
No Houston.
Listen, Diego. All I know is if you guys can get the constitutional carry in Texas, that pretty much cinches the deal of where me and the wife are moving. So you gotta make that. Talk to who you gotta talk to, bro, because if that constitutional carry happens, you got no state income tax, constitutional carry. I really don't have many reasons to stay where I am if the nice warm Texas gives me everything I want.
I'm just saying, I will gladly take care of you guys. If you guys come over here, man, I'll hook it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to be a political refugee. My parents did it.
Yeah. Matt McAndrew said Chris Marquez in Bricktown. Liberty motivated, wants to take care of the remnant. So we should definitely Matt, send us his information so we can reach out to him. We're always looking for more. So and do we know Janae LeBlanc? Can't agree with that. I don't know if it's the talk about Austin, maybe.
Yeah. She's probably not liking the way we're talking about Dallas and Houston.
Yeah.
Wow. I know she's in Houston, and once again, like tip of the hat to the queen of the redacted caucus. That lady's gangster.
Yeah.
She is a gangster.
Yeah. So, all right, awesome. I want to thank you guys both so much. I appreciate you coming on to talk about this. And look, it's really important. This is something that needs to happen, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later, because unlike some of the other things that are getting pushed right now, there are literally lives on the line on both sides of this conflict that's happening overseas. And so anything that we can do in order to stop this or put the blockade in place so we're not sending our sons and daughters to die in pointless conflict overseas in a legal war. So look.
What? You're muted.
You're muted. Your volume went
yourself
out, buddy.
Oh, nope.
Nah, his mic went out. Maybe his headphones died.
Yeah. Oh, he seems to be like. Is this like the Obama hand sign guy?
What are we doing? I don't understand. Well, listen, I can tell you right now probably what he's going to say. He's going to tell you to go over to the YouTube page. He's going to tell you to like, subscribe, subscribe, share the podcast. Make sure you got everybody out there going after it. All right, it's right there. Take a look at it. Make sure you go check out defendtheguard.us so that we know exactly what's going on. Come check me out on Twitter at Rufo for Congress, and make sure you're reaching out because we want to make sure this happens. The one last thing I will tell you is that if Matt can share that, if you can find it and share on your YouTube or wherever you got to share it, Matt, the portion of the speech where Scott Horton spoke in Texas at the State House, okay? Because it's so much bigger than just whether or not the Guard is being deployed unconstitutionally. The wars are tied into the Federal Reserve, which tied into the amount of inflation, which is a hidden tax on the people. All of it is tied in. And Scott does a beautiful job taking a few minutes and painting the picture of why this is the first step in taking a piece of the armor out of the empire and bringing it back down to the size of government that was intended by the framers. So please reach out. Let us know. Yep. Matt, if you can find that and do that, that'd be great. Thank you so very much for having me. You have it?
Yeah. So go to Bring Our Troops Home. Just search that. Go to the channel. We have everybody clipped, and we have the whole thing if you want to listen to it too.
Awesome.
There you go. Can
you hear me now? I'm back. But it's all right. I'm gonna pay Rufo for the last 5 minutes of the program. That's good.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Peace.
Later.